Alright. This is July. But you know, I really feel like I want September, October to be here. So I'm going to dress like it's September, October to make it hurry up. To help it to hurry up, right? September, October, come on. So, we're going to dress like September, October today. And hopefully, things will get cool. Brought out the lantern. Coleman. This particular lantern is from 1978, I believe. And it's got the big hat, the quote-unquote big hat. And it's full of fuel because I like to have a lantern ready for power outages, because New England is very much known for the power going out, big trees getting blown down, power lines getting whacked out, you know, all that sort of thing. Anyway, so I bucked up a tree the other day. That last one, that's 3 videos ago, I think, I bucked up that chunk of a tree trunk. I got 2 thumbs down on that. Believe it or not, all I'm doing is just bucking up some logs. I have no idea what the thumbs down are for. And I more or less just bucked up those logs just to show you that saw is it's a pretty darn good saw. You know, I've seen some people complain about it. It's like it's a hit or miss. You know, what's it say? You got a saw that was put together on Friday, late afternoon Friday, when everybody wanted to get off work and go and drink some beer or something, you know. Or it was Monday morning when nobody wanted to come into work. They had a good weekend and they didn't really want to be there, you know. It's that whole Friday, Monday mentality. You see stuff like that, you know. Sometimes you get a lemon. I've been looking at chainsaws here lately. Larger ones. You know, steel used to be my go-to saw years ago. And I had some steels. My dad ran primarily steels. He had a few McCulloughs. Back when McCullough saws were McCullough saws. They weren't, you know, under some big box umbrella organization. You know, they were real logging saws, you know. But yeah, everything seems to go through phases. But the steel saws that I own back you know 20 years ago were good saws. You know, they were real good saws. That was back when they called them 066, you know, 76, 088, and all that, you know. You know, in the 90s, late 90s there. And those were good saws. But then I come back up here to New England and decided to go with a Husqvarna, because, you know, that's the 2 big saws, Husqvarna and Steel, right? Those 2 big saws, the 2 big brands, you know, that are popular with the professional crowd. Echo was always a good saw, but it's always primarily, you know, upper homeowner grade. You know, they do have some professional stuff, but they never catered to like the big bars and all that, you know. So that's Japanese saw. Anyway, so I got a 562 XP. I think it was, I bought it between 2017 and 2019. I don't remember exactly when, but it's in that time period. And that saw has given me no issues. No issues. So I don't have any complaints about it. T435, I think it is. I haven't had any issues with that saw, other than, you know, I let it down on its lanyard when I was up in a tree a number of years ago, and I think it must have smacked against the trunk, and the little red button, the stop button, came out. I didn't see it anywhere on the ground, otherwise I would have just picked it up, seen if I could just put it back in. But I went to the Husqvarna dealer, and I had him order me the switch, and I went ahead and took it apart, put it back together, new switch in there. But the thing is the saw was running because I was in between cutting some stuff. So how do you shut a saw off when it's running and you ain't got no power switch to turn it off? Open the choke, little choke switch. Turn the choke fully open, and it will choke itself out. That's how you shut it off. But yeah, I got 2 thumbs down on the bucking on that one bucking video where I was bucking up some rounds from a tree trunk. You know, I don't have a timberjack anymore, or a PV. It would have made it so much easier to just deal with that situation. I don't like to leave it on the gravel, because then if you accidentally get your chain a little bit too far through and into the gravel and dirt, then you're just wrecking your chain, you know. So I like to lift it up off the ground. I used to take a broom with me too. I'd broom the trunk that had touched the ground in the dirt. I would broom that off before I'd cut. It sounds a little bit crazy, but if you got to be there cutting all day, you got a lot of cutting to do. You ain't got time for messing around with chains. We would take a chain off, put a chain on. Wouldn't even spend any time sharpening that chain in the field. Take the chain off, put a chain on. Dull, sharp. Okay, this one's dull. Okay, here's the dull one. Take a sharp one, put it on, continue cutting. That end of the day, sharpen all the chains. Or you had somebody like my brother who would, after a while, he got to be the designated chain sharpener because he was very good at it. But and he was quick. He had a knack for it. But yeah, how do you give 2 thumbs down for bucking up a few logs? And to tell you the truth, I hadn't done any real work like that in about 6 years. Maybe 8 years. 7 years. 7 years. It's been 7 years since I've done any serious cutting with the chainsaw. So yeah, I'm a little bit. I gotta knock the rust off a little bit, and I want to get a timberjack because they make things easier. A PV / timberjack, makes things easier to move large large pieces around. To be quite honest with you, that 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 tree trunk out there that I bucked up in that last bucking video, I could have lifted that up myself and threw a log underneath. You know, I mean, I may be older, but I'm still quite strong. You know, I could have just lifted up the thing and threw a log under there. But you know, the thing is that this channel isn't just geared for guys. It's geared also for ladies and other people that have an interest in all this sort of thing. And you know, if you got a big, you know, pry bar, breaker bar, you know, but you don't have a PV or you don't have a timber jack, you can get things done. You know, it's called improvise, you know, improvisation. I'm gonna cut down a tree tomorrow, just gonna fell it, get the camera out there. There ain't much to it. So part of it's already down. It's been dead for about 3 or 4 years, something like that. But since I've decided to go back to heating with firewood, I'm going to go ahead and knock it out. I'm going to knock that one out tomorrow. I'll take the camera out there. And I was going to do it today, but somebody bringing me some honey, and so I had to take care of that. Yeah. Got my coffee today. But getting back to that, the saws, the chainsaw, you know, I've been looking at the big saws for, you know, bucking large timber and chainsaw mill work. You know, like I got that big tree back there. I want to get some slabs out of that thing. But I've been looking at that Husqvarna 592 XP. And, you know, I was always a steel guy. But, you know, I got things turned around with my Husqvarna saws by changing the fuel and oil mix. Turned it back down to 32 to 1, and now it's ripping and roaring like nobody's business with the power and no dogging at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna really give them a chance. You know, I'm gonna give them a chance. Got that fuel oil mix, richer on the oil, and it's really doing well. So I think that's really the key. You know, it's just been EPA'd too much. You know, we just need to all ignore the EPA when it comes to chainsaws and other engines. You know, we really do. And you know what? I went to the saw shop a few days ago. They were trying to direct me towards electric chainsaw crap. I'm never going to run an electric chainsaw for anything around my house, and I certainly wouldn't use it for commercial work. Okay, unless, well, there's one or two little applications that it could be useful for. But you know what? I'm not going with the battery weight, because you know they strip mine for lithium. That's not green. You know, they try to push battery as green. It's not green. It's actually more harmful to the planet than burning petrol. You know, any petroleum engine, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is, you know. You're worse off doing batteries. Batteries wear out. They go into a landfill. You know, they strip mine to get the lithium and whatnot. You know, they use little kids. You know, like slaves over in third world countries to, you know, in the lithium mines and all that stuff. Where's old Greta? I don't see her anywhere over there. You know, poster childing for, you know, kids in strip mines to make batteries and, you know, quote unquote greeny stuff, right? I don't see her over there. Give me a Coleman lantern with fuel. Give me a chainsaw with fuel and oil. You know, that's where I'm at. But that's where I'm staying. And I have a big truck with a V8 engine. That's right. And I only use the best synthetic oil in my engines. You know, I don't use crap because I want those to last and last and last and last. Right? And you know, this Coleman fuel lasts forever. I had my dad's lantern, I lit it up with 40-year-old Coleman fuel. They talk about it not being any good after a while, but you know, just shake it up a little bit, you know. It ran. Might be a little dirty, you know, after 40 years. But you could always clean that generator and stuff, right? Come back in another one. See you there.